Your birthday is coming up, and while everyone around you is asking about your plans, what you want, where you're celebrating, you feel something unexpected. Dread. Not because you hate parties, not because you don't like presents, but because something about your birthday feels deeply uncomfortable, like you're being forced to stand in a spotlight you never asked for, like the day itself carries a weight you can't explain to anyone who doesn't feel it too. So you do what you always do, you minimize it. It's just another day. You make excuses. I'm too busy. You disappear. I'm not really a birthday person. And people look at you like you're broken, like something's wrong with you for not wanting the one day a year that's supposed to be about you. If you don't celebrate your birthdays, if the idea of being the center of attention on that specific day makes you want to vanish, this isn't about being difficult. This isn't about being ungrateful. This is about something much deeper. And once you understand what it is, everything starts to make sense. Let me describe a feeling you've probably had your whole life. It's your birthday. Someone insists on celebrating. They plan something. They invite people. They make a big deal out of it. And the entire time you're counting the minutes until it's over, not because you don't appreciate the effort, but because every moment of attention feels like a lie, like you're being celebrated for simply existing. And somewhere deep inside, you don't believe that existence alone is worth celebrating. You didn't earn this attention. You didn't do anything special. You were just born. And to you, that doesn't feel like an achievement. It feels arbitrary, random, undeserved. Psychology calls this low self-worth, but it's more specific than that. It's the belief that you need to earn your value, that love, attention, and celebration must be deserved through accomplishment, not given freely for simply being. And a birthday celebrates nothing you did. It celebrates that you're here. And if you've spent your whole life believing you need to prove you're worthy of being here, that feels impossible to accept. Here's what most people don't understand. For some people, birthdays aren't joyful, they're triggering, because they represent everything you were taught not to want: attention without achievement, celebration without earning it, being seen without having to perform. Think about your childhood. Were your birthdays happy, or were they complicated? Maybe they were forgotten. Maybe your parents were too busy, too distracted, too overwhelmed to make it special. And you learned early that your existence wasn't worth marking, that you weren't important enough to celebrate. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe your birthdays were the only time you got attention, but that attention came with conditions. You had to be grateful. You had to perform happiness. You had to make everyone else feel good about celebrating you. And now, as an adult, birthdays feel like a trap. If people celebrate you and you don't feel worthy, you feel like a fraud. If they don't celebrate you, it confirms what you already believed, that you don't matter. Either way, you lose. Psychologists call this a double bind, a situation where every option feels wrong, where there's no way to win, and the only escape is to opt out entirely. So you do. You stop celebrating. You tell people it doesn't matter. You make it easier on everyone, including yourself, by pretending the day doesn't exist. But here's the painful truth. You're not avoiding birthdays. You're avoiding being seen. Because being celebrated means being visible, and being visible means being vulnerable. It means people are looking at you, focusing on you, expecting you to receive their love and attention without doing anything to earn it. And if you grew up in an environment where visibility equaled danger, where being seen meant being criticized, judged, or hurt, then birthdays feel like standing in the middle of a stage with nowhere to hide. Our research shows that people who avoid celebrating birthdays often score high in what's called rejection sensitivity. You're hyper-aware of the possibility that people don't actually want to celebrate you, that they're just being polite, that they'll forget, that you'll be disappointed again. So you protect yourself by expecting nothing, by making the day invisible, by ensuring that if you're forgotten, it won't hurt, because you never acknowledged it mattered in the first place. But there's another layer here, one that runs even deeper. For some people, birthdays are a reminder of time passing, and time passing feels like failure. Every birthday is evidence that another year has gone by. And what do you have to show for it? Did you accomplish enough? Did you become who you thought you'd be? Are you where you should be at this age? For people with perfectionist tendencies, with high internal standards, with a belief that they're always falling short, birthdays aren't celebrations, they're audits, annual reminders of everything you didn't do, everything you're not, everything you failed to become, and who wants to celebrate that? Psychologists link this to something called temporal anxiety, the fear of time running out, the belief that you're behind, that you're wasting your life, that everyone else is moving forward while you're stuck, and every birthday is a timestamp, proof that you're getting older without getting better, that the gap between who you are and who you should be is widening, so you avoid it. You pretend the day doesn't exist. Because if you don't acknowledge the passage of time, maybe it won't feel so heavy. But let me tell you what's really happening beneath all of this. You're not avoiding your birthday. You're grieving something you never had. You're grieving the version of childhood where birthdays felt safe, where being celebrated felt natural, where you didn't have to question whether you deserved it. You're grieving the belief that you matter just because you exist, the belief that your presence is a gift, that the people who love you don't need a reason beyond you're here. And that grief is so deep, so old, that it doesn't even have words. It just lives in your body as discomfort every time someone says, "Happy birthday." Here's what people who celebrate birthdays don't understand. For them, birthdays are easy. They grew up believing they were worth celebrating. They internalized at a young age that their existence mattered, that people were genuinely happy they were born. But you didn't get that message, or if you did, it came with conditions, with expectations, with the unspoken demand that you be grateful, happy, easy, perfect. And now, as an adult, you can't just flip a switch and believe you're worth celebrating, because that belief was never built, the foundation was never laid. So when people insist on celebrating you, it doesn't feel like love. It feels like pressure, like they're asking you to perform a version of yourself that doesn't exist, the version that believes they deserve it. And you can't fake that. You've tried, and it exhausts you. But here's what I need you to hear. The fact that you don't celebrate your birthday doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're protecting yourself from a pain that's older than you can remember. It means you learned at some point that your existence wasn't inherently valuable, that love had to be earned, that attention was dangerous, and you built a life around that belief, a life where you don't ask for much, where you don't expect to be remembered, where you make yourself small enough that being overlooked doesn't hurt. But you deserve more than that. You deserve to exist without having to justify it. You deserve to be celebrated not because you achieved something, but because you're here. Because the world is better with you in it. Because the people who love you are grateful you were born. And I know that feels impossible to believe. I know every part of you wants to argue with that, to list all the reasons it's not true. But what if just once you let someone celebrate you? Not because you believe you deserve it, but because you're willing to sit with the discomfort of being seen. What if you let your birthday be about receiving instead of earning, about being instead of doing, about existing instead of proving? It won't feel natural. It might feel painful. You might cry. You might want to leave. You might feel like a fraud the entire time. But something might shift, something small, a tiny crack in the belief that you have to earn your place in this world. Because here's the truth. You were worth celebrating the day you were born, and you're worth celebrating now. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. And the people who want to celebrate you, They're not lying. They're not being polite. They see something in you that you can't see in yourself yet. They see your kindness, your depth, your resilience, the way you show up for others even when you don't show up for yourself. They see you, the real you, and they want to honor that. So maybe you don't throw yourself a party. Maybe you don't post about it. Maybe you don't make a big deal. But maybe, just maybe, you let one person acknowledge it. You let them say, I'm glad you were born. And you let yourself hear it, really hear it. Not because you believe it yet, but because you're willing to practice receiving love without earning it. Because that's what birthdays are really about. Not cake, not presents, not attention. They're about the radical act of being celebrated for simply existing. And you, more than anyone, deserve to know what that feels like. So this year, on your birthday, don't disappear. Don't minimize. Don't make it invisible. Just be. And let someone who loves you see you. That's all. That's enough. You're enough. You always have been.